live. It's spinning. This is what normally happens. We have to wait for Facebook to tell us where we've gone live. But once that happens, look, I actually threw a collar on for you today, Don. Look how fancy I got. Look, well, you're always looking nice. I'm looking like me. I
have a button-up shirt for him.
Geez, this is what you guys raised my level. Get me actually get up in the morning and take a shower. Hey guys, Adam Serwinski here with Chicagoland Chats here on Wednesday, June 3rd. It's 12:01, so it's as you know, it's Chicagoland Chats time. I'm Adam Serwinski with Sidebar Insurance Solutions, joined as always by my good friend Butch Zemar. Butch, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hey, thanks, Adam. I'm Butch Zemar from Elite Benefits. We help small to mid-sized companies with their health insurance programs and worksite benefits.
And as I said, I'm Adam Serwinski with Sidebar Insurance Solutions. Today we are having an all-insurance roundtable, so I hope you brought all your policy docs and you're super excited to nerd out about insurance because it's everybody's favorite topic. I'm sure the reviews will be through the roof, but we've got somebody really with an interesting perspective, a smart guy who's got a lot of experience in the industry, Don Murphy with Don Murphy's, I think it's Murphy American Family Insurance, right?
Close. Don Murphy Agency Inc. But
there you go.
American Family. Yep.
There you go. So Don, why don't you introduce yourself? Obviously you did a little bit, but introduce yourself, talk about where you're at, and let people know about you.
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Don Murphy with American Family Insurance. I've been an agent now a little bit over 13 years. My office is in Oak Lawn. I service Illinois, Indiana, a couple other southern states, and I'm happy to be here today as a panelist. Hopefully we don't get too insurance nerdy for you guys.
Are you kidding me? This is what people live for. So fantastic, Don. I really appreciate it. Why don't you, so we've all been kind of in flux, and one of the things we like to talk about in our videos of Chicagoland Chats is talk about some of the ways that you're adapting your business or adapting your life to COVID to allow people to feel comfortable either to reach out and understand the ways that you're protecting both yourself, your employees, as well as the customers you serve.
Sure. That first month was a challenge. We did have to close the office and we were working remotely. And Adam, you were my son's baseball coach, but we had 4 kids at home. And I tell you, it was like having my own personal marching band. It was my hat goes off to my wife though, and she does an amazing job helping me to be able to work from home. But I've been back in the office, and everyone's still remote. We've been putting our customers in front of mine, our staff in front of mine, and trying to play our part to help close the curve on the pandemic and everything that's been going on. So I'm looking to actually hire a second remote user that's going to be starting Monday. She lives in Kansas City, Missouri. So we've had a lot of changes because realistically, there's a lot that you can do remotely. There's not a ton of clients that come into the office all the time, but we have the same access to do a video chat with a customer, do everything electronically over the phone, and help them in a variance of ways.
That's awesome. Very cool. And so you've been able to adapt and using remote workers and stuff. Electronically, people are still able to get policy changes. They're still able to get updates. They're still able to combine new policies or get rates checked and everything else. Fantastic. So we talked a little bit about how you're doing that. You're protecting your employees, obviously allowing them to work remotely. Talk a little bit about, if you would, how what things you're seeing from your customers and clients, and what things you think customers and clients should be thinking about during this COVID time, where they may have a little more time in their hands, or they may be thinking through their expense sheet, right? And they're thinking through their different household budgets, given the uncertainty of what's been going on these past couple months.
Well, the number one question I get, and I'm sure you get too, Adam, is, Don, what can I do to save money? My hours have been cut. I lost my employment. My spouse has been laid off. We're spending more money on food. What can we do? It's kind of the $1 million question, but that's something that us as insurance professionals that we always deal with. And what builds an insurance rate is multiple factors. One of the things I always tell customers to be mindful is the amount of insurance, and not just price, but looking at gaps that they have in coverages, taking a look at deductibles, taking a look at endorsements. One of the biggest factors is an insurance-based credit scoring system that most major carriers use. Keep those things in front of mind. And then also, like, I encourage my clients, if there is a claim and it's not catastrophic, let's go get an estimate first. It might slightly be over your deductible. And carriers look at both, insurance carriers look at both severity, and they look at frequency. So how big a claim is, and then how often you're filing claims. So if you're an individual who's filing a bunch of small claims, at fault claims, that can play a bigger factor on your rate. So we try to encourage our customers to get estimates, even if it's a homeowner's claim, have somebody come out, take a look at it. Be mindful of someone knocking on your door telling you they can get you a full gut remodel, and all you have to do is put their sign in the yard. You know, I just really want them to be mindful and in the whole gamut of insurance and how that plays into your rate.
Yeah, no, I think it's really smart advice. I mean, and obviously I have a little personal experience here, Don, as we talked about before, and deductibles is really, I think, the best place where you can find that best value. Insurance companies often will rate you based on it being $1, you know, that you, as if you'll make a claim for $1 over that deductible. So if you have a $500 deductible, the probability of that happening where you're getting a $501 claim is far greater than a $1,001 claim, right? So you got to having those cash considerations, I think, is a super smart way, especially right now when things are tight. It allows you to have better value, get the value for the insurance where it's supposed to be, those catastrophic, those bigger issues, not maybe that, you know, scratch or nick or whatever it might be that you could have covered.
And likewise, when we have a carrier when a person that may move to a different carrier, you're probably going to lose the home and the auto. So bundling is something that we encourage too, and annually taking a look at your policy. When there's any type of change in milestones in your life, or just at least once per year, making sure that your carrier earns your business to see what they can do to adjust the rate, but also making sure that those coverages stay in line as your life evolves.
Now, to add to that, you guys are obviously a little bit more up to speed on this line of coverage, but I know even in any line of insurance coverage, just because you're trying to cut costs does not mean you should take things out, because that'll be the moment that they actually need it. How many times have people said, hey, where can we shave some dollars? And there's people in our industry that will take things out, and then that's when Murphy's Law comes in, and finally you have to make a claim, and then you don't have it.
Yeah, and I'm always scared to just get a customer solely on price. Yeah. Because that's ultimately why they'll leave you. So it's a retraining of your mind. You know, when we think about how our country has been impacted, not just with what's been going on with the civil unrest the past few days, but the pandemic. You know, I know customers that have lost loved ones and in their basement flooded 3 weeks later. You know, real things that are happening to clients that we all know. So I encourage them to not walk over the dollars just to pick up the pennies. And realistically, if you're saving $50 a month or any large number, it's probably because the new carrier has a new set of information. You can ask your current carrier to rerun or reconsider credit and certain factors that build that rate.
Well, I think too, on top of that, Don, one of the things that I try to stress to my clients is if you're making, a lot of people right now are making home improvements. They're improving their health. They're making it more livable. Maybe they're updating some of the plumbing or some of the kitchen stuff, right, to make it something they're doing. Those type of factors can also have an impact, right? So if you improve it, you may want more coverage to cover it. But also on the flip side, if you're improving your plumbing or your HVAC or your roof, those things can actually decrease your insurance premiums, because the more updated the home is, the more comfortable they are with insuring it. So I think, Don, you're talking about all the right things. Moving for 10 or 15% because somebody flashes you 10 or 15% without actually comparing what the coverages is or the value you're receiving is, just as you said, I love that phrase, walking over dollars to get to pennies.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Adam and I have had this conversation many times over the years where a lot of ways we have to retrain some of our clients how to buy insurance and then get their mind away from the cost. Cost is important, very important, because if you can't afford it, it means nothing. But if you get the focus into a different direction, then those minor changes aren't that much. You're still going to have some that are going to switch for a couple bucks, and that's unfortunate. But a lot of times, because they came to you for a reason, like you guys, where there's trusted advice, a quality product, making sure it's there when you guys need it the most. You got to put that focus on what kind of value are you getting out of dollars you're spending. So in case, I mean, all insurance companies go through a bad cycle. It doesn't mean that you have to move. You just have to justify, okay, not focusing on that price. What am I getting for that? And if I wait a little longer, is it going to pay off versus just switching all the time? Because there's negativity. I know Adam and I have talked about this, where especially in the world that you guys are in, switching carriers all the time isn't good either, because the insurance companies track that, and it could actually come back to haunt you down the road.
Yeah, big time. And one of the things that we've done in transitioning to making every renewal about price We're even starting since last year, we call more periodically based upon last name. So our personal insurance reviews no longer follow the motto of calling at the renewal, because we've learned that those were very price-driven conversations, and the customer was trained to say, oh, I haven't done anything. I haven't had any claims. I haven't had, I pay all my bills on time and yada, yada, yada. But realistically, when we look at a renewal, it makes sense to talk about coverages first, because usually, if you're leading on price, there's some endorsement that may be missed. There may be, a coverage issue later on and down the road, and you look up and that $200 you saved a year no longer is worth it. Now you're paying $5,000 out of your pocket.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. And what I think too is when we have to also kind of when we talk about retraining our clients and stuff, it's not just a training thing that's necessarily their fault. I mean, they're bombarded by constant email or messaging, radio, television, podcasts, whatever, about how they could save money, you could save money, you could save money. And these times that are tight, it's understandable. But I think the key is especially, here, obviously, Don, we've gotten to know each other over the past couple of years really well. And having advisors who can give you that discussion where price is a factor, but not the factor. When you reduce it to just being a price consideration, I mean, the actual thrust and importance of the policy is lost, right? So there's, the absence of value, price matters, but the value has to be explained. And those other companies who are running call centers and running ads all the time, they don't want clients to understand the value of a really good agent, because they can't necessarily deliver a really good agent every time, because they don't know who the call centers are going to go to. You want to make sure you understand, and this is one of the great things that Don, being a part of a community, being in the community and in the area, can say, and myself as well, like, we're here. You can be able to call us, you'll be able to come to our office. Yeah. We can sometimes even go to you to help you through whatever's going on. Those bigger box, larger groups may not be able to deliver that type of personal stuff.
And that's really how I got my start in insurance. When my mother was injured in a car accident, I was a sophomore down at the University of Illinois, and she was with a good carrier, A-rated carrier. The lady that hit her was with the A-rated carrier, but they both had lower limits. The lady had the state minimum coverage at the time, which was 2040. And my mom sustained some really, really bad injuries, even to this day, that affect her quality of life. And that's when I really started to learn more about bodily injury coverages and uninsured motorists, underinsured motorists, personal liability protection. So when we offer a client a package, some of it is subjective to the client at large, but realistically, we want a minimum set of coverages that we know in large are going to protect our customers.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
What matters.
Now, if you guys don't mind, if we shift this subject a little bit towards the business side of things, with all the things that are going on between the pandemic and then, of course, current events in highly populated areas, on business coverage, some of the business owners had a huge reality check when it came to certain elements of coverage. So, such as loss of income because of stay-at-home orders and or work remotely, but they're not generating enough sales. So there's a number of things, and of course now, I mean, just because somebody threw a brick through a window doesn't mean insurance is actually going to pay for it, especially on the business side I'm focusing on. And so maybe you guys could talk a little bit about that, because there's details in devil's in the details, right? Between lease agreements and then what's the contract you signed up with the insurance company, and then what was excluded on that coverage. Maybe you guys could comment on that.
Well, I didn't know if Adam was going to jump in there.
Your pause is well earned. There's a lot of issues I think that people with during this time are facing. But Don, I'll let you start with some of the things that you think businesses maybe should be reviewing on their policy or having a conversation with their agent about, given the current things that are coming to light.
Well, it's two things, and I threw a curveball at one of our commercial guys earlier today. I said, what if there's a hair salon that was closed due to the pandemic? Right? There's no coverage. Most business interruption, most states don't extend business interruption in there. But I said, but what if that hair salon, while it was closed, got burned down in the riot? It's not funny, right? This happened.
Yeah.
It happened to businesses, not just in Minneapolis, but to all around our nation. And I see a huge problem here I think it's going to hit a lot of legal departments, and it might even go to the Department of Insurance. It might even be some federal rulings on this, where there's going to be some gray areas. None of us have ever been here before. You know, in large, there are many exclusions to viruses and bacteria due to the pandemic. I know you might have seen a lot of stuff on Facebook, guys, that from some, Adam, you're an attorney by trade, but from some attorneys that say, hey, we can get you a bunch of money. Us, you know, I would say this: if you think you have a claim, reach out to your agent, reach out to your carrier. You can put the claim in. As far as the rioting and the civil unrest, that typically is covered for fire, vandalism, theft, those types of things. Now, I will tell you this: one really cool thing that American Family has been doing. If there was a reason for a covered loss, let's say there was a fire, but due to the pandemic, let's say a contractor wasn't able to get in there and start the repair, or there was a shutdown because streets were blocked off, we are extending coverage for things like business income, payroll, those types of things. So American Family's done some awesome things there. And I think most carriers may have been looking at that, but there's so many different moving parts when it comes to the business insurance and business interruption and the pandemic and the civil unrest. There's a lot of moving parts. And I would say, I encourage you to look at your policy, review that policy, sit down with your agent, or reach out and make a call.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important, Don. And just to kind of piggyback on that, what we're seeing is actually a lot of the there's really two things that are coming to play with those business interruption claims. Is that first, there's obviously an exclusion within the policy generally for viruses and pandemics, but also there's usually a require in the business interruption that there be physical damage to the property, which is where I think Don's coming in, that if there was physical damage due to these things, that business interruption would engage at that point because of that requirement under the policy. That it may not fall underneath the exclusion anymore because there actually was physical damage to the property. But those things are all devil in the details of the policy that you get. Like insurance is the only product that you get it, and it's got like 40 pages long, 50, 60, 70 pages long, depending on how much, the carrier you're with. And they expect you to understand all of it, right? And so to Don's point, it's super difficult with all of these exclusions to deal with those pieces. And that's why it's important to have, again, somebody who can call in your neighborhood, somebody like Don who's going to be able to ask those questions and be able to give you direct answers, or someone who's involved with you. And that's what I think is really important that people should see as part of the value right now. I would say, to piggyback some of the things that Don said, those riot issues are generally, like I said, depending on the peril. So people have to understand on their policies, there are three types of peril groups. There's the basic, the broad, and the special. And not to get too nerdy, but the basic is the most restrictive and only covers certain named perils. The broad covers more of those named perils, and the special excludes only certain perils but covers everything else. So if you're left with a policy that's super restrictive in that basic because it was the cost-effective policy for you, you may be out of luck unless there's a fire or unless there's something that is in that list. Same with the broad. It may have more listed perils, but it may not include riot. So if riot or civil commotion is not in one of those listed perils, you may be out of luck. But if you're on special and they haven't listed riot as an exclusion, you're covered. So it's important to have those conversations with your insurance company, like where you fall under. The other thing I would tell people, since we're on the insurance conversation, is that a lot of businesses are moving to delivery. Whether you're a retail location delivering your stuff to your, or even just a restaurant or something else, if you're adding driving, and even if these vehicles are not owned by your business, that's an auto risk. And so hired and non-owned auto coverage or some type of auto policy that comes into play is something you need to talk to your agents about, because given these transitions and the things going on, new risks are existing to your agency or to your business. And the last thing you want to have is that phone call of like, hey, I got in an accident delivering this pizza. We weren't normally a delivery place. What do I do? And the policy may say, the carrier may say, that's not covered under this policy. You should have added something to it. So again, another thing that a trusted advisor like Don can do, or I don't want to necessarily toot my own horn, but the things that having these conversations with local agents who are here and are ready to serve you can really benefit you.
Yeah, we've seen that on the personal side too, because the large amount of people that are doing rideshare now, food delivery, through food delivery. So Uber Eats, DoorDash, and some of the other ones. Guys, I tell you what, if you don't have the rideshare endorsement, you might want to call your carrier and look at putting that on there, because there are blackout periods that exist in your policy as soon as you go for hire or you're heading to drop the food off, if there's a claim that results from that.
Yeah, and a lot of people live under the assumption that, oh, I'll be covered by the group that I'm working for, and that's not always true. There's different segments to that. It does get a little complicated, and you may be giving up coverage you paid for and that you really want simply by turning the app on. It's really an important piece, Don. Thanks for bringing that up too. On the personal side, that's a huge area of concern.
I guess the good news, especially in current times, that those coverages aren't new. Like, they've been around for a long time, and even in the beginning stages of the Ubers of the world, right? And so maybe back then there was a little bit of like, we don't know how it's going to happen, and then claim experiences started building experiences for the insurance company to figure out how we're going to handle this. And like today, it's a normal product to turn on and off, and so. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be done with your insurance agent, and it's not going to be foreign to them because it's not new just because of a pandemic or current events.
Yeah, and that's what's going to keep happening. Times are going to continue to change, good or bad, but things are going to continue to adjust. Our industry is ever changing, and we just need to stay in front of that. So as your needs change, and as your business evolves, sit down. Do a personal insurance review, do a commercial insurance review, take a look at your policy, take a look at your coverage. Don't focus solely on the bottom line, on the price.
Yeah, I think to that point, Don, you talked about this earlier, making clients, like, people too often, I think of their insurance as something they need to hide from, right? Like, I don't want them to know what I'm doing. I don't want them to, but the fact is I got in this business because I like people and I like having relationships with them. And I was an attorney before, and it was basically the case and it was over, right? But now I get to have 30 years with these people. I get to develop relations. I know their kids. I can be there and talk them through those things. If you give me a call and say, hey, look, I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm Don, I'm sure you're the same way. Like, I'm thinking about going and doing DoorDash because I need a little extra scratch. I'm losing some hours here or there. Great. Here's how you do that in a safe way so that you don't walk away from a policy you think you have coverage in, or just give away money that, for a policy that's not going to respond when you need it to. That's the worst.
Yeah.
So I think that to back up Don, I think that's 100% true, and having your clients and being in touch with them off renewal cycles is super important task, but also to make sure clients understand we're here to answer calls. We're not here for you to hide from us. It's funny when I talk to a lot of my clients, they're like, they buy a life insurance policy from me and they're like, oh, I had a cold. Should I tell you? And you're like, man, come on. Like, we're here to actually help you through all this. And when the big stuff happens, we kind of want the ball, right? We want to make sure our policies are doing what we told you they would do. And we can only do that if we know.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So Don, let's talk a little bit too about just obviously any other things that you think that people need to be thinking about just from an insurance perspective, or even just in a general perspective as we head out we're heading, about midweek here, given your professional experience, that they need to be maybe that you're seeing as oversights or things that they may want to check in with you on as clients, or things you'd want to see them doing as good practice with their insurance.
I'm a big advocate of life insurance. That's a core product in our business. And I encourage them to not just review their personal home, personal auto policies as their prices in front of their mind, but take a look at, do a beneficiary review with you on your current life insurance policy. Make sure you have your assets protected. Talk to an estate planning attorney. Wills and trusts are a big part of what we refer out and take a look at. True asset management touches multiple pillars that should be, holding up or protecting your family or protecting your business.
No, I think that's great advice too. I mean, the varied ways you can make sure. Right now, obviously, the fragility of life is a big issue, right? Yeah. We're seeing a lot of parents and stuff who are concerned, obviously, rightfully, for themselves and from their family members and stuff. And life insurance is a really important way. And we're actually seeing, and I think you're probably seeing this too, Don, is companies are accelerating their life insurance policy. It's not like that they're shutting down the sales. They're actually accelerating the underwriting policy because they can't go into homes like they normally would. They can't do the blood draws. And with certain limits, they're actually doing a lot more electronically. And it's accelerating the process and making it easier. So if you've been putting off the insurance product policy stuff because that you're worried about the blood draw or you're worried about the weight, this may be the right time because they're actually restricting their ability to do that. Don, your thoughts on that?
I might position it a tad bit differently, but I know.
How is that?
No, that's good. No, you make a good point, because American Family and other carriers, what they've done, it has allowed us to put more apps through and kind of streamline the process. So they're still taking a look at your medical insurance bureau. They're
Yeah.
still taking a look at your prescription drug information. And they do ask you a series of underwriting questions. And remember, there's always that 2-year contestability clause in there. So we still want you to answer the questions honest and truthfully throughout the underwriting process. But you're right, Adam. A lot of our requirements for oral fluid tests have been waived. A lot of our requirements for even we've got a lot of jet issue policies, particularly on some of our younger or more healthier insurers. And our life department has done an amazing job. To think that I never want to fear sell anybody a life insurance policy, but I think this has encouraged people to put it back front of mind and to get it done now. Not that you're going to die, not that anything's going to happen to you, but the fact that sometimes life will accelerate. And so you need to accelerate your plan and to get things in place. So while you're at home, while you have a little bit more idle time, pick up the phone and call your family attorney. Pick up the phone and review your policy. Pick up the phone and get that life insurance policy in place. Get some coverage on your children. Do the things that we've been putting off for years.
I think it's 100% smart. It's really, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people have lost their commute. Make your commute time you normally would commute into work for, make it the time to brush up on some stuff around the house maybe, because you have that flexibility now a little bit more, at least.
Yeah,
Butch, any other questions you want to ask?
No, Don's a great guy with a lot of resources, connections, and a lot of knowledge in the industry. Him and I have had these conversations for years now, and so and I highly encourage not only reaching out to Don or Adam, but definitely the local insurance agent aspect, because they bring a lot of value. They're engaged in the community. The 1-800 number does not know what's going on in the south side of Chicago. And so it brings a lot of comfort knowing that we're living in the times and somebody can relate to it.
Yeah. I have to say, like, I have a tremendous respect for Don. You can see insurance guys get along. Yeah, we're technically maybe competitors, but I have a lot of respect for Don. I think Don is and just personally is an outstanding dad. He came out and like he said earlier on, I was his son's baseball coach, and he was an outstanding part of the team, coaching those kids and keeping everybody positive. And he's got a great group behind him, and his wife's fantastic. So I just personally, Don, I have a ton of respect for you. Thank you so much for coming on. We want to be mindful of your time. So why don't you give everyone your contact information, let them know how they can get in touch with you if they want to follow up with this conversation.
Yeah, I'm located in Oak Lawn at 108th and Cicero, 10806 South Cicero. And our number 708-229-1112. You can reach us via social media as well. And again, I want to say thank you to Adam and thank you to Butch for creating this format and giving people content and keeping people encouraged about all types of things. And you guys are bar none, top-notch professionals. And again, I love what I do, and I appreciate you guys sharing that platform. And even with Adam, as you being an insurance agent yourself. So thank you. It's more than enough business out there for everyone, huh?
Yeah,
right.
That's
absolutely.
Right. Hey, Adam, just a quick shout out. Thanks to Julie Miller for making the connection with the Oak Lawn Chamber and getting you on. I appreciate the time that you're spending with us, Don, and information that we're passing along. And thanks to you, Adam, too.
Yeah, thanks, Butch. Hey, it's been great developing all these relationships with the local chambers, Oak Lawn, Orland, Mokina, Tinley. We've had relationships with all of them throughout this, and they've been fantastic assets to us. Don, you've been fantastic as well today. Thank you so much. Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy out there. We're going to all get through this together, and we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow on Chicagoland Chats again. Thanks again, everyone. Like I said,
Thank
be
you,
safe,
everybody.
be healthy. Bye-bye.